So the official trailer for Detective Pikachu dropped today, and I will say it looks better than I expected it to, if that's really saying anything. Let's actually start with the visual look, the CG mostly. I think that is going to be the big talking point about the whole thing. The first thing that came into my mind when I watched this trailer was that fan-made Pokemon live-action movie trailer from back in, 2010, I think it was. Gotta give a tip of the fedora to the people who made that, because while, yeah, the CG in that was really rough, comparing that as a fan project that was produced 8 years ago to this high production budget feature made in 2018, and it's not bad at all. At the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be any way to faithfully translate Pokemon into the real world without them looking a little bit creepy. They're cute cartoon animals, but in real life, they'd have to look a little bit more real. Like, if you look at the CG in the Pokemon Go trailers, for instance, the Pokemon look just like they do in the anime and in the games, but they don't look at all like they belong in our world. It's hard for the suspension of disbelief to go as far to believing something that jumped right out of a cartoon is just walking around in the real world, unless that's the intention, with something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What do you change to make them look more like, real animals? With that in mind, I think they did good with the CG here. More hits than misses, I'd say. Pikachu looks fine, which is the most important, because obviously you're going to be looking at him for most of this film. The Bulbasaurs they briefly showed were by far my favorite part of this trailer. Even though it was so quick, watching them march and splash around in the shallow stream, that is the sort of shot that makes me believe live-action Pokemon can work. Looked awesome. Jigglypuff, all furry, looked weird to me. I'd tone that down a bit. The fur in general, I thought, was a bit extreme. I kind of wonder if the fur thing is to try and somehow maintain this idea that even in the real world versions, they're all cute and cuddly in their own way or something. In terms of the casting, I have no idea who this Justice Smith kid is. I guess he's in the newest Jurassic Park movie, haven't seen it. And all I can say is I'm not really feeling him much from this trailer, not hating. I just don't really feel anything towards him. Now, Ken Watanabe, on the other hand, that is an awesome get. Like, if I could make a dream Pokemon live-action cast, there would have to be a spot in there for him somewhere. Love this guy, and I could totally see his acting making us believe, even just for a moment, that this world is real and we should actually take it seriously. But since I love this pick so much, I'm sure he won't be in the film long, right? We can't have good things like that. And of course, that leaves Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu.
Whoa. Did you just understand me?
Oh my god, you can understand me! Stop! I've been so lonely!
Let's be honest, after the Danny DeVito Detective Pikachu dub,
Your mother is dead!
Who wants from him?
I didn't go to Vietnam just to have pansies like you take my freedom away from me.
no one besides DeVito was going to please everyone here. However, I think for the way they are portraying Detective Pikachu here, sort of a snarky goofball, Reynolds is a fine fit. And even if you're not a fan of his, you can't argue that his star is on the rise right now, and he is amazing at promoting his movies on social media. So I think he is going to be an asset when it comes to getting butts in those seats when this movie releases. Let's also just talk a bit more broadly about Detective Pikachu as a movie concept, definitely out of left field. When this movie was first announced, I would assume, and I'm sure many others would, that if they were going to make a live-action Pokemon movie, they'd want to play it safe. You know, the newbie Pokemon trainers trying to become Pokemon masters, that whole shtick. Instead, we have this sort of film noir-inspired adventure, lots of nightlife, dark alleyways in this trailer. Certainly not the bright and cheery world we're used to when it comes to Pokemon. When I saw this shot, in particular, the bustling market area with all the neon lights and steam coming out of seemingly everything, all I could think of was Blade Runner, which is never a bad thing in my opinion. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So even though it is more of a gamble, I really like that approach. It's still fun, there's clearly going to be plenty of comedy to it, but there is a bit more edge than we're used to seeing with this IP. With all these things considered, my hope is this is going to be sort of a Toy Story 3 type scenario. Toy Story 3 was still a kids movie through and through, but it was much darker. Even though it was a kid's film, it was much more so aimed at people who were young kids when the first 2 Toy Story movies came out and were now adults. Again, that is my hope with this. It's still very welcoming to new Pokemon fans, but it's a bit more aimed at older fans. I can say for me, I didn't even know what the context was, and I could still feel myself getting a little bit emotional from just witnessing the shot of the sad Pikachu. I'm sure there are going to be some hurt Pokemon in this, both hurt feelings and hurt physically, and I don't know if I'm going to be ready for that. And it's not like it's just going to be Detective Pikachu and this kid moping around town interrogating people. It seems like there's going to be a fair amount of action in this. We got a cool attack shot of a group of Greninja. The scene with Charizard appears to take place in some sort of underground Pokemon battle arena, so maybe we'll see some straight up battles. That's something I'd be really interested in with the CG. You know, how cool can they make Pokemon fights look with a sizable budget? And with the real life actors off screen or confined to like the background, the CG characters aren't going to stand out as much, so I think there is tons of cool potential there. As a longtime fan of this series, well, more so a lapsed fan, I'm a old school fan of the series. I'm eager to see what they do to set dress the world so it feels more Pokemon. Just going off the trailer, I love all these Pokemon fight posters plastered everywhere. I'd actually love to get stuff like that to hang on my actual walls. There are plenty of really cool building exteriors in that opening shot in the trailer. You know, will we get to see, say, what an actual Pokemon Center would look like in the real world? Also, plenty of opportunities there. All in all, this trailer, I believe, does its job well. They have my attention. Going with a unique spin on exploring the world of Pokemon may be a bit of a risk, but it gives us a chance to see it in a different way as well, and perhaps in a way that is more fitting to live action. I think the CG looks fine. Once more, it's going to be hard to make these characters look more realistic while also somehow keeping them faithful and recognizable to their original forms. Again, going with a darker theme, they may be able to mask things a bit better with low light situations, and the writing, I think, seems pretty good. Granted, there's always the chance of them putting the highlights in the trailer, but I thought the comedy spots worked and didn't feel forced. Loved the bit with Mr. Mime at the end. Of course, I hope it all works out, and we get a Pokemon movie fans deserve. And with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the Pokemon Detective Pikachu trailer in the comments. If you're a fan of the Pokemon franchise, how do you think it looks in terms of bringing Pokemon over to the real world? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of the Pokemon Detective Pikachu trailer. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends, link to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.